What is that supposed to mean? My wife demanded, standing in front of me. Every time I stay out late with friends, you give me that martyred look. Why so generous tonight? I looked up, my gaze calm. I'm not angry. I don't blame you. I just want you to be happy. She froze, stunned by my response. Normally, I would have been grilling her about why she didn't come home earlier or lecturing her about spending too much time with Ethan Reed. She always called me petty and controlling. After a while, I didn't even have the energy to argue anymore. My new attitude seemed to needle her. Don't act so high and mighty, Leo, she snapped. You're a petty man. That's what I can't stand about you. I stared at her for a few seconds and almost laughed. She'd said those exact words more times than I could count. She thought I was putting on an act, finding some new, passive-aggressive way to get back at her. What she didn't know was that I genuinely didn't care anymore. 3 hours ago, I had received an anonymous email. There was no text, just a single video file. The video was shot in a private room at a high-end omakase restaurant. The camera, likely hidden in a corner. On screen, my wife, Chloe, was doubled over with laughter, nestled against Ethan. She playfully fed him a piece of sashimi. I bet that loser Leo is at home right now, waiting on pins and needles for our Chloe to come back, one of their friends slurred. Ethan tightened his arm around Chloe, kissing her on the cheek with a contemptuous smirk. That's about all he's good for. If he hadn't liquidated his savings to help Chloe start her studio, he wouldn't even be qualified to live in a house like that. Oh, stop it. Don't talk about him like that, Chloe said, giving him a gentle shove. But the triumphant smile on her face gave her away. He's just so boring. Not fun like you. But he's good to me. He believes anything I say. That's because he's an idiot, Ethan said bluntly. Once our new company goes public, why would you waste any more time with him? We'll make sure he walks away with nothing, and then we can finally be together for real. You're terrible, Chloe murmured, but she pressed her body even closer to his. The video ended there. I watched it a dozen times. The first time, my heart stopped. Then, an icy chill spread through my body. Now all I felt was a hollow emptiness. I met Chloe in college. I pursued her for 3 years, and we finally got married 2 years after graduation. She told me she wanted her own career, that she couldn't stand the thought of being a housewife. Without a second thought, I took the down payment we had saved for a house, along with the $50,000 my parents had given us, and pulled together $200,000 to help her launch her design studio. To make sure she could focus on her work, I took over all the household chores. Every day, I'd time my cooking so a hot meal was waiting for her when she got home. Her studio started to take off, and her social circle expanded. That's how she met Ethan Reed. Ethan was the founder of a buzzy new marketing firm, young, successful, and charming. Chloe told me he was a crucial business partner, and I believed her. They traveled for work together, attended industry parties together, and even had late-night drinks together. I wasn't immune to suspicion and jealousy, but every time I voiced my discomfort, Chloe would accuse me of being petty and insecure. She'd say I was suffocating her career and her social life. Leo, can you please grow up? She'd say. Ethan and I are just friends. If you keep this up, we're not going to make it. To save our marriage, I backed down again and again, convincing myself that I had to trust her. I thought my patience and tolerance would earn her understanding and appreciation. Now I saw the truth. I was nothing but a joke, a fool they played with in the palm of their hands, and I was too stupid to even realize it. Leo, what are you thinking? Chloe's voice pulled me from my cold reverie. Seeing my silence, she grew more agitated and reached out to shove my shoulder. I took a step back, avoiding her touch. Her hand hung in the air, a flicker of shock on her face. I looked at her perfectly made-up face, a face I once found beautiful, and now saw only a stranger's mask. I'm thinking we should get a divorce. As the words left my mouth, I felt no pain, only the calm relief of release. Chloe's eyes went wide, as if I'd just said the most absurd thing she'd ever heard. What did you say, a divorce? Her voice shot up. Leo, you'd really say something like that just to manipulate me? You've got some nerve. She still thought this was just another one of my games. I was done explaining. I walked into the study, pulled the prepared divorce papers from the drawer, and placed them on the coffee table in front of her. Take a look. The house was bought by my parents before we got married, so it's mine. The car is in your name. It's yours. Your studio, I invested $200,000 initially. Based on its current valuation, you owe me $800,000. We don't have kids, no joint debt. It's simple. My calm, methodical explanation shattered her last shred of confidence. She stared at the black and white document, the color draining from her face. You're serious? Her voice began to tremble. I am. Why? Because I came home late, because I had a conversation with Ethan, she demanded, hysterical. Leo, can you stop being so childish? Childish? I laughed, a real laugh for the first time in hours, dripping with sarcasm. Chloe, the only reason you think I'm childish is because you've been treating me like an idiot. You know damn well what you and Ethan have been doing. My words hit their mark like a dagger. Her eyes darted away, her bravado crumbling. What are you talking about? Ethan and I are just friends. Really? I took out my phone, played the video, and turned the screen toward her. When Ethan's voice echoed in the silent room, that's about all he's good for. Chloe's body swayed, and she nearly collapsed. She stared at the screen, her face ashen. When the video finished, the living room was dead silent. Oh, who sent you that? She stammered, asking the most irrelevant question possible. Does it matter? I put my phone away. What matters is that I'm done being the fool waiting by the door. No, Leo, let me explain. She panicked, reaching for my hand. We were just joking. We were drunk. Don't touch me. I pulled away again, my disgust clear in my eyes. I feel dirty. Those two words stung more than any insult. Tears welled in her eyes as she switched tactics, trying to appeal to my emotions. Leo, we've been together for years. Are you going to throw it all away because of one video? Have you forgotten how you chased me? Have you forgotten how good you were to me? I haven't forgotten, I said, looking right at her, my voice hard. It's because I remember everything so clearly that I feel like such a complete moron. My resolve broke her. She started spewing venom. You'll regret this, Leo. You think you can find someone better? You're just a boring programmer. Besides being my doormat, what else do you have? You think you can even support yourself on that pathetic salary? You forgot, I said quietly. Your studio was funded with the money I got from selling my patent. My pathetic salary was never the whole picture. Years ago, I held a patent for a promising AI algorithm. For her dream of opening a studio, I sold it without a second thought. I never told her. She always assumed that money was my parents' retirement fund. Chloe stared at me, speechless. She clearly had no idea about my past. But I was done talking. Look over the agreement. Sign it if you agree. You have 3 days to transfer the $800,000 to my account. Then, take your things and get out of my house. Without another glance at her, I walked into the guest room and locked the door. Through the door, I could hear her muffled sobs and furious curses. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and didn't sleep a wink. When morning came, I left the guest room. Chloe had cried herself to sleep, curled up on the sofa with tear tracks still on her cheeks. I felt nothing. I packed a backpack with my laptop and a few changes of clothes. As I was putting on my shoes at the door, I glanced back at the home I had decorated with my own hands. Our wedding photo was still on the wall. In it, I was smiling blissfully. Chloe's smile, in retrospect, looked forced. I took the photo off the wall and dropped it into the nearby trash can. Then, I opened the door and walked out without looking back. The sunlight was blinding, but it felt like a new beginning. Leo, from this day forward, you live for yourself. After leaving that suffocating house, I checked into a hotel. The first thing I did was forward the video from the anonymous email to Ethan Reed's biggest business rival, Sophia Sterling, the CEO of Apex Holdings. My email contained only one sentence. Miss Sterling, I believe this might be something you're looking for. I was betting she'd understand its significance. Ethan's Evolve Marketing and Sophia's Apex Holdings were well-known competitors in the industry. Recently, they were both vying for a massive contract called Project Constellation, a 3-year exclusive marketing deal with the country's largest electric vehicle brand. Landing it would solidify either company's position as an industry leader. Ethan's biggest asset was his carefully crafted public image as a brilliant young entrepreneur and a devoted family man. The video of him with my wife, along with a scheme to cut a business partner out, would shatter that image overnight. After sending the email, I took a shower, changed, and opened my laptop to update my resume. For the past 5 years, to accommodate Chloe's life, I had worked at a laid-back company with a mediocre salary, so I could be home to cook dinner every night. My skills and project experience, once my pride and joy, had grown stale. But the knowledge was still there. I spent the morning polishing my resume, highlighting the AI projects I led in college, and the patent I had sold. Then I sent it to 3 companies. One of them was Apex Holdings. The position I applied for was Chief Technology Officer. I knew it was a long shot. My recent work history didn't come close to qualifying me for a C-suite role. But this was my gambit. I was betting that Sophia Sterling was a bold leader who would not only see the value in the video, but also the value in my resume. With that done, I went to the hotel restaurant for lunch. For the first time in 5 years, I didn't have to consider Chloe's preferences. I ordered several spicy dishes I loved and ate until I broke a sweat, feeling a profound sense of liberation. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, may I speak with Leo Thompson? This is the HR department at Apex Holdings. We've received your application. The CEO, Ms. Sterling, would like to conduct a brief video interview with you now, if you're available." My heart skipped a beat, but I quickly composed myself. "I'm available." "Excellent. I'll email you the meeting link right away." After hanging up, I took a deep breath, straightened my shirt, and opened my laptop. The video call connected moments later. On the screen was a woman who was, without exaggeration, stunning. She looked to be in her late 20s, with a sharp, shoulder-length bob and exquisite, defined features. Her eyes were as sharp as finely cut diamonds. Dressed in a perfectly tailored black blazer, she sat in a large executive chair, her powerful presence practically radiating through the screen. This was Sophia Sterling. She was even more impressive than in the photos I'd seen in business magazines. "Mr. Thompson, hello," she said, her voice cool and appraising. "Ms. Sterling," I replied, meeting her gaze without flinching. "I've seen your resume. In your email," she stated, getting straight to the point. "Very interesting." Her use of interesting was deliberately ambiguous. "I want to know what you're after," she said, leaning forward slightly, her fingers steepled on the desk. Her piercing eyes were locked on me. It was the look of a predator sizing up its prey. "What I want, Ms. Sterling, should align perfectly with what you want," I answered calmly. "I want Ethan Reed and Chloe Davis to lose everything. Their reputations, their careers, all of it. You want Project Constellation and Evolve Marketing's market share." My bluntness brought a flicker of surprise to her eyes, which quickly turned into appreciation. "You don't mince words," she said with a faint smile. "What makes you think you can deliver?" "Because I know them better than anyone, and because the skills on my resume aren't just for show," I said, my tone confident. "The core of Ethan's company is his marketing strategy. His biggest weakness is a lag in data analysis. They're still using outdated manual models. I can build Apex, a real-time AI, sentiment analysis, and marketing strategy engine. Our response time will always be one step ahead of his. As for Chloe's studio," I paused, my voice turning colder. "I'm intimately familiar with all of her key clients and design concepts. I know how to poach her team and steal her contracts with minimal cost, turning that studio she's so proud of into an empty shell." As I spoke, the steps to make it happen were crystal clear in my mind. These were the trade secrets Chloe had unknowingly fed me over the past 5 years, treating me as a harmless sounding board, an emotional garbage can. She had forgotten that I wasn't actually a fool. Sophia listened quietly, her eyes growing brighter. "Very good," she nodded. "One last question. Why Apex?" "Because you're ruthless and you're smart. Working with smart people saves time and energy." "Huh." Sophia let out a laugh, a rich, throaty sound that momentarily broke her Ice Queen facade, revealing a flash of captivating charm. "Leo Thompson, you are indeed very interesting. Be in my office tomorrow morning at 9. Top floor. We'll talk in person." "I'll be there." The call ended. I let out a long breath, my back damp with sweat. Holding a conversation with a woman like Sophia Sterling was intensely pressuring, but it was also exhilarating, like a chess match with a grandmaster. I knew I had made the right bet. My path to revenge had officially begun. 3 the next day, I arrived at the Apex Holdings Tower right on time. The receptionist was expecting me and respectfully escorted me to the private elevator for the executive suite. Sophia's office was enormous, with a floor-to-ceiling glass wall that offered a panoramic view of the city's financial district. Today, she wore a white silk blouse, the top two buttons undone to reveal her elegant collarbones, and a black pencil skirt that perfectly accentuated her curves. She looked up from behind a massive desk as I entered and gestured for me to sit. "Coffee or tea? Water is fine, thank you." She poured me a glass herself before sitting on the sofa across from me, crossing her long legs gracefully. "Let's continue yesterday's conversation," she said. "You want them ruined. I want their market. Our goals are aligned, but I need to see your value." "My value is what's in my head." I placed a flash drive on the coffee table and pushed it toward her. "On here, you'll find a preliminary AI marketing model for Project Constellation that I put together last night. You'll also find a detailed plan for poaching Evolve Marketing's 3 biggest clients." Sophia raised an eyebrow, picked up the drive, and plugged it into her laptop. She read quickly, her initially relaxed posture becoming more focused. 10 minutes later, she closed the laptop. The look she gave me was one of deep admiration. "Leo, you're a genius," she said, her praise genuine. "If this AI model can be fully realized, it would revolutionize the entire marketing industry. Name your price. Salary, benefits, equity, whatever you want." "I don't want a salary, and I don't want equity," I said, shaking my head. Sophia was surprised. "Then what do you want?" "I want the full resources of Apex Holdings to execute my plan. I want to be the sole head of this project, with absolute authority. And after we succeed, I want 30% of all profits from the acquisition of Evolve Marketing and Chloe's studio." It was an audacious, almost arrogant demand. I was essentially asking to use her platform and resources to enact my revenge, and then take a huge cut of the spoils. Sophia studied me for a long moment, a slow, captivating smile spreading across her lips. "You're greedy. High risk, high reward. You're a businesswoman, Ms. Sterling. You understand that." She suddenly stood up and walked over to me, leaning down. A subtle scent of jasmine and expensive perfume enveloped me. Her face was so close I could see the fine hairs on her cheeks. "And why should I trust you not to take the money and run?" she murmured, her voice low and hypnotic. I could feel her warm breath on my face, and my heart began to pound. But I didn't look away. I met her eyes directly, because we have a common enemy. Furthermore, my 30% cut will be immediately reinvested into Apex Holdings in exchange for the equivalent shares. I want to be tied to this company's success. A flicker of surprise crossed Sophia's face, followed by a genuine smile. She straightened up and returned to the sofa, her entire demeanor relaxing. "All right, you have a deal," she said, extending her hand. "Leo, welcome to Apex. As of today, you are the Special Director of Project Constellation, with a rank equivalent to Vice President, reporting directly to me." I took her hand. It was soft and delicate. "Pleasure doing business with you, Miss Sterling. Call me Sophia." She gave me a quick wink, a flash of charm that could make any man's head spin. Sophia, our partnership was sealed. That afternoon, I moved into an office just as spacious as hers, right next door. Apex Holdings operated with breathtaking efficiency. Within 2 hours of my arrival, a dedicated project team composed of elites from the tech, marketing, and PR departments had been assembled and was awaiting my command. My first directive was for the PR department to accidentally leak the video. We edited it first, of course, blurring Chloe's face. The title was suggestive. Prominent marketing CEO in late-night tryst with partner, potential trade secrets exposed. It named no names, but anyone in the industry would know exactly who it was. I didn't want to destroy Ethan in one blow. I wanted to boil the frog slowly, to make him watch as everything he built was dismantled piece by piece. As expected, the video sent shockwaves through the industry. Ethan's PR team scrambled, issuing a sanctimonious statement claiming the video was maliciously edited slander by a competitor and threatening legal action. But their weak denials were unconvincing against the damning footage. Evolve Marketing's stock price took an immediate hit, and that was only the beginning. As the video scandal erupted, Chloe bombarded me with calls and sent over 100 texts. Her messages devolved from curses and accusations to desperate pleas. "Leo, how could you do this to me? Did you leak that video? Are you really trying to ruin me? After everything we've been through, How could you be so cruel? I was wrong, Leo. I was so wrong. Please come back. We can start over. I didn't reply to a single one. I just blocked her number. 3 days later, the deadline I had given her passed. The $800,000 never appeared in my bank account. I wasn't surprised. Chloe was pathologically selfish and materialistic. Forcing her to part with that much money was like asking for her life. She was probably still clinging to the hope that this was just a phase, that if she waited it out, I'd eventually cool down. But she was dealing with a new Leo, one who had no softness left for her. I had my lawyer send the original investment agreement, bank transfer records, and a formal lawsuit directly to her studio. I was suing her for fraudulent transfer of assets during marriage and demanding the return of my investment plus capital gains. It was a kill shot. Chloe's studio looked successful on the surface, but its cash flow was tight due to high overhead. A lawsuit demanding nearly $1 million would shatter her finances. The afternoon she received the legal notice, Chloe showed up at the Apex Holdings building, demanding to see me. When security stopped her, she completely lost her composure, sitting on the floor of the lobby, wailing and screaming, creating a massive scene. Leo, you ungrateful snake, get down here. You live in my house, spend my money, and now that you've made it, you want to throw me away. Do you have a conscience? Her shrieks were piped through the internal comms system to my office. Sophia walked in, an amused look on her face. Shall I have security remove her? I shook my head and walked to the window, looking down at the hysterical woman who was once my wife. I felt nothing. No, let her scream, I said. The bigger the scene she makes, the worse it is for Ethan. How can clients trust a man with a multi-million-dollar project when he can't even control his own mistress? Sophia nodded in agreement. You're even more ruthless than I thought. Mercy for your enemies is cruelty to yourself, I said, turning back to face her. Besides, she's not my problem anymore. Sophia came and stood beside me, her subtle fragrance drifting into my space. The woman downstairs will have other things to worry about soon, she said suddenly. I gave her a questioning look. She smiled, her red lips curving, and handed me a tablet. On the screen was a breaking financial news alert. Evolve Marketing's key client, Blue Harbor Technologies, has unilaterally terminated its contract and entered into a strategic partnership with Apex Holdings. I smiled. This was the plan I had given Sophia. I hadn't expected her to execute it so quickly and flawlessly. Blue Harbor was Ethan's most important client, accounting for nearly 40% of his annual revenue. Losing them was like losing a limb. That's just the appetizer, Sophia said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Now it's time for our main event. The pitch for Project Constellation is next week, I said. Ethan is in crisis mode. It's the perfect time for a fatal blow. What's your plan? I'm going to make sure he loses so badly he'll never recover. For the next week, my team and I practically lived at the office. Under my direction, the AI marketing model was rapidly perfected and integrated with Apex's massive database. We ran tens of thousands of simulations, creating a scarily accurate profile of Project Constellation's target demographic. The final proposal was a masterpiece of creativity, feasibility, and budget control. Sophia was involved every step of the way, and her sharp business instincts and decisive leadership were incredible to witness. We were a perfect team. I handled the internal strategy and tech, while she managed the external resources and negotiations. We clicked seamlessly. Late one night, it was just the two of us left in the executive suite. I typed the final line of code and let out a long sigh. It's done. Sophia came over from her office, handing me a steaming cup of coffee. You've earned it, she said, her eyes filled with undisguised admiration. Honestly, I'm becoming more and more curious. How blind was Chloe to let a man like you go? I gave a self-deprecating smile, probably because the Olmi only knew how to cook and code. Then she chose the box and threw away the diamond, Sophia said, taking a small sip of her own coffee. Her eyes landed on my mouth. You have a little something. Right there. I do. I started to wipe it with my hand, but she suddenly leaned in, her slender fingers gently brushing the corner of my lip. Her touch was cool, but incredibly soft. The space between us vanished. I could smell the scent in her hair, see her thick, curled eyelashes, and get lost in her deep, captivating eyes. The atmosphere in the office suddenly crackled with a different kind of energy. My heart, the traitor, began to race. "There," she said, pulling her hand back as if nothing had happened. She stepped away, a sly smile playing on her lips. "Get some rest. We have a big battle to win tomorrow." She turned and walked back to her office with an elegant stride. I stood frozen, touching my lips where I could still feel the phantom sensation of her fingers. This woman was a siren, one who could effortlessly stir a man's soul and remain a complete enigma. I took a sip of the coffee. The bitter liquid did nothing to quell the strange heat rising within me. I knew then that my heart, dormant for 5 long years, was starting to wake up. The pitch for Project Constellation was held in a packed conference hall. When Sophia and I walked in side by side, we turned every head in the room. We looked, for all the world, like a power couple. I saw Ethan sitting a few rows away. He had lost weight and looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by a mask of pure anxiety. Chloe was nowhere in sight. I supposed a man whose company was on the brink of collapse had little time for a woman who was nothing but a liability. Ethan saw us, too. When his gaze landed on me, it was filled with pure, unadulterated hatred. I gave him a small smile, held up my proposal binder, and made a welcoming gesture. The provocation was intentional. Ethan's face turned a shade of crimson. The presentations began. Ethan's evolved marketing went first. I had to admit, personal feelings aside, the man had some talent. His proposal was solid, with decent creative ideas and a workable execution plan. On any other day, it might have had a good chance of winning. Unfortunately for him, he was up against me, and I had brought a cheat code. When it was Apex's turn, I took the stage myself. I didn't start with vague concepts or emotional appeals like the others. I projected the raw user data from our AI analysis onto the massive screen behind me. According to our data, the potential customer for Constellation Motors is between the ages of 25 and 40. Over 60% are male. They are digital natives who value technology and user experience, and they are heavy users of social media. I broke down the user profiles, their spending habits, their media consumption, all of it backed by verifiable data, so precise it was unnerving. The judges and the executives from Constellation Motors were visibly impressed, nodding in approval. Ethan's face, however, grew paler by the second. Everything I was presenting completely contradicted his team's market research. Based on this data, we have designed a fully integrated, omni-channel marketing strategy for Project Constellation. For the next 15 minutes, I laid out our entire plan. From viral online campaigns to immersive offline experiences and long-term community management, every element was interconnected and logically sound. But the real game changer was our AI engine, which could monitor online sentiment in real time and automatically generate optimized PR and marketing responses within an hour of any significant shift. This meant Constellation Motors would always be in control of the narrative. When I finished, the room erupted in thunderous applause. The outcome was no longer in question. The head of the project, a VP named Mr. Chun, walked onto the stage and shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Thompson, in my 20 years in this industry, that is the most brilliant and forward-thinking proposal I have ever seen. The board is unanimous. Project Constellation is yours." I had won. We had won. I turned and looked at Sophia in the audience. She was already looking at me, her eyes shining with pride and admiration. We shared a smile. Nothing needed to be said. Across the room, Ethan sat slumped in his chair, his face ashen. He knew he was finished. Losing Project Constellation on top of his biggest client meant bankruptcy was no longer a possibility, but an inevitability. After the meeting, Sophia announced a celebratory party on the rooftop garden of the Apex building that evening. The entire company was ecstatic. At the party, music blared and champagne flowed. As the man of the hour, I was mobbed by well-wishers wanting to offer toasts. I'm not much of a drinker, and after a few rounds, I was starting to feel it. Sophia noticed my predicament, smoothly taking the glass from my hand and intercepting the next wave of people. "Our hero is tired," she announced with an air of authority. "I'm taking him home. You all carry on." Her tone left no room for argument, and the crowd happily dispersed. She took my arm and led me through the throng of people into her quiet, dimly lit office. She helped me onto the sofa before turning to get me some water. She was wearing a stunning, wine-red slip dress that exposed her back, the curve of her hips outlined beautifully by the soft light. Watching her, my inhibitions lowered by the alcohol, I grew bold. "Sophia," I said, my voice a little rough. She turned around, a glass of water in her hand. "Yes." I stood up and walked toward her. She didn't move, just watched me approach, a curious glint in her eye. I reached her, took the glass from her hand, and set it on a nearby table. Then, I wrapped my arm around her waist. Her body was soft, her waist impossibly slender. She tensed for a second, but didn't push me away. She just tilted her head up, looking at me with those mesmerizing eyes. "Leo, do you know what you're doing?" she asked, her voice a soft, dangerous whisper. "I do," I said, leaning close to her ear, my voice low enough for only her to hear. "I'm pursuing you." I felt her shiver as my warm breath grazed her skin, and I saw her ears turn a lovely shade of pink. She seemed to get flustered and try to push me away, but I was faster. I lowered my head and captured her lips with mine. They were soft and tasted faintly of red wine. She struggled for a moment, but then, under my gentle but firm kiss, she melted. She began to kiss me back, hesitantly at first, then with growing passion. The temperature in the room climbed. Outside the window, the city lights twinkled like a sea of fallen stars. Inside, two figures were locked in a deep embrace. I don't know how long we stood there before we finally pulled apart, breathless. Sophia's face was flushed, her eyes hazy and glistening. She rested against my chest, catching her breath. "Leo, you bastard," she murmured, her voice so soft it sounded more like a caress than an insult. I chuckled, then swept her up into my arms and carried her toward the private resting room adjoining the office. "I have a much worse side," I whispered. "Want to see it?" She didn't answer, just buried her face in my chest and tightened her arms around my neck. It was a silent invitation. The lights in the CEO's office stayed on all night. We had no idea when the party outside ended. All we knew was that we had found each other completely and utterly in body and soul. We were partners in war, and now partners in love. When I woke up the next morning, Sophia was gone. The bed still held her scent and the lingering evidence of our passionate night. I sat up and saw a brand new men's suit in my exact size laid out on the nightstand. Next to it was a note. "Went to the morning briefing. The clothes are for you. Come out for breakfast when you're awake. S." Her handwriting was elegant, with a hint of playfulness. I smiled, a warmth spreading through my chest. This woman, as formidable as she was in the boardroom, had such a thoughtful and tender side. I showered and put on the new suit. When I walked out of the resting room, Sophia was at her desk, reviewing documents while nibbling on a sandwich. She looked up as I emerged, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. She nodded in approval. "It fits perfectly. You have excellent taste," I said, sitting down across from her. "A breakfast was laid out for me, too." "Of course I do," she replied without a hint of modesty. Her tone then shifted, becoming playful. "So, did you sleep well, Mr. Vice President?" She emphasized the title teasingly. I took a sip of milk, looking into her smiling eyes, and decided to play along. "Not really," I said, shaking my head with a serious expression. "Oh," she raised an eyebrow. "And why is that?" "Because," I leaned closer, lowering my voice, "a certain CEO was so enthusiastic that I'm now suffering from extreme physical exhaustion and sleep deprivation." Sophia's face instantly flushed. She clearly didn't expect me to be so bold in her office. She shot me a mock glare. "Just eat your breakfast and shut your mouth." Seeing her rare, flustered expression made my day. After breakfast, we got down to business. "Our legal team has already prepared the acquisition offer for Evolve Marketing," Sophia said, back in full CEO mode. "After losing Project Constellation and their biggest client, their stock has plummeted. Ethan won't last long. I give him 3 days before he comes crawling to us." "And Chloe?" I asked. "Your lawsuit froze her company's bank accounts. We've also hired away her top designers. The studio is an empty shell at this point. She's finished." "Good." I nodded, a cold glint in my eye. "But I want more than just their bankruptcy." Sophia looked at me. "What else do you have in mind?" "To land the Blue Harbor account. Ethan paid a lot of bribes to their project manager. His books are dirty. I want you to have your people dig into it. I want him in jail. As for Chloe, I paused. What she cares about most is her reputation, that ridiculous independent woman persona she built for herself. I want to make her a pariah in the entire design community. Sophia didn't ask why. She just nodded. Consider it done. Her unconditional trust and support was a powerful, comforting thing. As we were discussing the details, her assistant knocked and entered. Ms. Sterling, Ethan Reed is here. He wants to see you and Mr. Thompson. Sophia and I exchanged a knowing glance. Sooner than I expected, she said with a smirk. Send him in. A moment later, Ethan walked into the office. He looked like he had aged 10 years in a few days. His hair was a mess, his face unshaven, his suit wrinkled. The arrogant, successful founder was gone. The hatred in his eyes when he saw me was visceral, but he swallowed his pride and forced a smile that was more painful than a grimace. Sophia, he said, let's talk. Sophia leaned back in her chair, the picture of casual power. What is there to talk about, Ethan? I want to sell my company to Apex, he stammered. I know I lost. All I ask is that you give me a fair price, a way to walk away with some dignity. A fair price. Sophia laughed as if he'd told a joke. Ethan, right now, your company is worthless to me. The only reason I agreed to see you was to give you a chance to surrender. It seems you still don't grasp your situation. Ethan's face went white. Sophia, don't be so ruthless. We're in the same industry. There's no need to burn every bridge. Ruthless? Sophia scoffed and slid a file across the desk toward him. Take a look at this. Ethan picked up the file. After one glance, his whole body trembled as if struck by lightning. It was a complete record of his commercial bribery, with every illegal transaction detailed. You. He pointed a shaking finger at us, unable to form a complete sentence. You have two options, I said, standing up and looking down on him. 1. I acquire your company for 1/10 of its pre-scandal value, and this file disappears. 2. We see you in court. You'll lose your company and spend the next few years in prison. Ethan's psychological defenses shattered. He dropped to his knees with a thud, sobbing. I was wrong, Leo. I was so wrong. I never should have gone after Chloe. I never should have schemed against you. Please, let me go. Take the company. I don't want anything. Watching him grovel was disgusting. Too late, I said coldly. You should have thought of this day when you were both laughing at me behind my back. In the end, Ethan signed the humiliating transfer agreement. He walked away with nothing but massive personal debt, transformed from a celebrated CEO into a broke and disgraced nobody. With Ethan dealt with, it was Chloe's turn. Chloe's public downfall happened at an industry design gala. The event was a who's who of the city's most prominent designers and studio owners. Chloe had managed to get an invitation. She was likely hoping to use the event to network and salvage her career. She had dressed for the part in an expensive gown and flawless makeup, putting on a brave face as she tried to mingle. But no one would talk to her. The scandal surrounding her studio had already made the rounds. Just as she was standing alone, humiliated, the event's host made a surprise announcement. And now, please join me in giving a warm welcome to the winner of this year's Golden Shears Award for Emerging Design Talent, Mr. Leo Thompson. When my name was called, every eye in the room turned to me, including Chloe's. She stared at me in utter disbelief, her eyes wide. In her world, I was just a boring programmer. How could my name possibly be associated with a design award? I walked onto the stage, cool and confident in a custom-tailored Armani suit that Sophia had picked out for me. I didn't look at Chloe. I scanned the audience and smiled. Good evening, everyone. I'm Leo Thompson. Many of you may not know who I am, and that's fine. But I'm willing to bet many of you have seen my work. I clicked the remote in my hand, and a large screen behind me lit up with a slideshow of exquisite design sketches. The work was unique and innovative, and a wave of murmurs and gasps went through the crowd. My God, aren't those the designs from Ethereal's best-selling collection last year? And that one. That was Aura Design's flagship product for the winter line. I heard it sold out instantly. Wait, he designed all of these. The chatter grew louder. Chloe's face went from shocked to pale to the color of ash. because every single design on that screen represented one of her studio's most famous and profitable projects from the last 2 years. Projects she had publicly claimed as her own, passionately crafted, original works. That's right, I said, waiting for the noise to die down. My voice carried through the speakers, clear and steady. All of these designs are mine. For the past several years, I have been the anonymous ghost designer for the studio owned by my ex-wife, Ms. Chloe Davis. My statement hit the room like a bomb. The place exploded. Every single person turned to stare at Chloe, who was shrinking in a corner. Looks of disdain, contempt, and ridicule shot toward her like poison darts. She's a fraud. She's been passing off someone else's work as her own. I can't believe it. I actually used to admire her. No wonder her husband divorced her. What a horrible person. Chloe swayed on her feet, looking like she was about to faint. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I looked at her, my voice ringing with finality. I didn't come here tonight to show off. I came to make a point. True talent cannot be buried forever. And I wanted to remind certain people that a life built on lies and deceit will eventually crumble into dust. I bowed to the audience and walked off the stage to a roaring ovation. I didn't spare Chloe a single glance. I knew that from this moment on, her career was over. She was socially and professionally dead. No company would ever hire a designer with a history of plagiarism and fraud. Her pride, her career, her very identity, I had personally destroyed it all. It was the most fitting revenge I could imagine. Sophia was waiting for me at the entrance. She was leaning against her Maserati, and when she saw me, she held up the sleek glass trophy. "Congratulations, Mr. Golden Shears," she said with a teasing smile. "I seem to recall you pulling some strings to get me this award," I said, walking over and wrapping an arm around her waist. "I merely provided a stage so everyone could see the talent that was always there," she said, standing on her toes to give me a quick kiss. "You deserve all of it." We smiled at each other, got into the car, and drove off. Halfway home, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. On the other end was Chloe's voice, hoarse and ghostly. "Leo, you are a heartless monster. Is there something you need?" I asked, my tone flat. "What did I ever do to you that was so wrong? Why did you have to ruin me?" She shrieked through sobs. "I gave you everything. My youth, my love." "Stop." I cut her off with a cold laugh. "You gave me 5 years of being cheated on. You gave your love to Ethan. All you ever gave me were lies and betrayal. We are even, Chloe. Don't call me again. If you do, I can't guarantee that what happened to Ethan won't happen to you." I hung up and blocked the number. Sophia glanced over from the driver's seat. "Her? Yeah, still trying. She's a gambler who's lost everything, making one last, desperate bet," I said, leaning back and closing my eyes. From now on, those two no longer exist in my world. Sophia reached over and took my hand. "That's right," she said softly. "From now on, your world only has me in it." Her hand was warm and soft. I squeezed it, opened my eyes, and watched the city lights streak past the window. The past was finally over. My future with Sophia was just beginning. After acquiring Evolve Marketing, Apex Holdings expanded its empire, becoming the undisputed giant of the industry. I stepped out from behind the scenes and officially became the company's second in command. My relationship with Sophia also moved from a secret office romance into the open. Everyone at the company could see the special intimacy between us. No one dared to comment, but most seemed to approve. After all, the brilliant and handsome vice president and the beautiful, powerful CEO made a perfect pair. Our bond deepened through the long hours we worked together. Sophia was a woman of contrasts. At work, she was a queen, decisive and commanding. But with me, she let down her guard, revealing a softer side that was playful, shy, and even a little clingy. She would peek through my office door during my meetings and text me, "A man focused on his work is so attractive." When I worked late, she'd cook for me. The food was usually terrible, but the gesture warmed my soul. And in our quiet moments alone, she would curl up in my arms like a contented cat and share her secrets with me. I learned that she hadn't come from money. She had fought her way up from the bottom. Her parents had died when she was young, and she had shouldered everything alone. Apex Holdings was a kingdom built with her own blood, sweat, and tears. That was why she cherished what she had, and why she secretly longed for a shoulder to lean on. Leo, she said one night, her head resting in my lap as she looked up at me. Do you know what I love most about you? What's that? I asked, gently stroking her hair. You see through all my defenses, and you still want to protect my vulnerability. Her eyes were shining, sparkling like a moonlit lake. I leaned down and kissed her deeply. In that moment, I swore I would spend the rest of my life protecting this fiercely independent woman. Our relationship grew more serious, and moving in together was the natural next step. I moved into her penthouse apartment downtown. The place was massive, decorated in her signature minimalist style, cool tones that matched the first impression she gave the world. But after I arrived, the apartment started to feel like a home. I would make her a big breakfast on Saturday mornings. We'd hold hands and walk through the park downstairs in the evenings. And late at night, I'd hold her in my arms by the massive windows, watching the city lights spread out below us. Our life was simple, but filled with a quiet, profound sweetness. One time, we had a major disagreement over a project proposal at work. We were both stubborn and refused to back down. It ended with me slamming my hand on the conference table in front of all the senior executives and storming out. Everyone was in shock. Sophia was furious. We spent the rest of the day in a Cold War, ignoring each other. The atmosphere at home that night was just as icy. I sulked in the study while she shut herself in the bedroom. Late that night, I got hungry and went to the kitchen. The fridge was empty. Just as I was about to order takeout, the bedroom door opened. Sophia emerged, wearing a silk robe and carrying a steaming bowl of wonton soup. She placed the bowl on the table without looking at me. Eat, she mumbled. Don't starve yourself. All the anger inside me melted away. I walked over and hugged her from behind. I'm sorry, I whispered. I was out of line at the office today. Her body was stiff for a moment. Then she relaxed into my embrace. I was wrong too, she said, turning to face me. Her eyes were red. I shouldn't have been so stubborn. I should have listened to you. Leo, can we promise not to fight like that again? It scares me. Seeing her so vulnerable made my heart ache. I pulled her into a tight hug. Okay, no more fighting. From now on, you're always right. That's not going to work, she mumbled into my chest. At the office, we have to do what's best for the company. But at home, you have to do everything I say. Deal. Anything you say, my queen. I gently tapped her nose, and she finally smiled through her tears. That night, we made up, and we were closer than ever before. As we were lying in bed, she suddenly asked, Leo, have you ever thought about getting married? I froze for a second, then my heart exploded with joy. I rolled over, pinning her beneath me, my gaze intense. Sophia Sterling, are you proposing to me? She blushed and looked away. I was just asking. Well, I'm taking it seriously, I said, tilting her face toward mine. My voice was low and earnest. Sophia, marry me. Let me take care of you for the rest of our lives. Tears instantly filled her eyes. She didn't speak, just nodded vigorously and pulled my head down for a deep, searing kiss. There was no grand proposal, no expensive diamond ring, but we knew our hearts were already bound together. A few days later, we went to City Hall and got our marriage license. Walking out with the official certificate in her hand, Sophia grinned like a child. Leo Thompson, I'm legally your wife now. If you ever bully me, I'm protected by the law. Yes, ma'am, Mrs. C. I mean, my dearest wife, I said, lifting her hand to my lips and kissing it. I'm all yours, now and forever. We didn't announce our marriage with a big celebration. We just made a simple announcement at the company. Our employees showered us with congratulations and support. Our marriage was a union of love, but was also the ultimate business merger. Apex Holdings now had an unbreakable husband and wife team at its core. Epilogue. I heard whispers, now and then, about what became of Chloe and Ethan. Ethan was convicted of commercial bribery and embezzlement. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. By the time he gets out, he'll be a relic, forced to work menial jobs to survive. A pathetic end. Chloe, unable to find work in the design world, ended up marrying a rich, sleazy businessman 20 years her senior. It wasn't a happy marriage. Her husband had a string of mistresses and treated her like property. She wanted to leave him many times, but without any financial independence, she was trapped. But none of that matters to me anymore. Their fate is irrelevant. The happiness I have now is something they can never touch, and that is more than enough. My life has turned to a new page, and the title of this chapter is Happiness.